Yeah, so we're at the ACE Climactic Wind Tunnel here at Ontario Tech University, located in Oshawa. We have the car in the wind tunnel here. We're just getting between sessions here, doing some setup. We got the splitter, wing, diffuser. We're finding out the perfect angle of attack, best way to mount them to the car. We've built them with a lot of adjustability in them. So when we sell the car, when we ship the car, we're going to ship it with a bunch of different setups you can have for wet, dry, different tracks. You got a higher speed track, we'll have this kind of angle attack. You have more windy roads and we'll give you this kind of an angle setup's best. This is part of developing this car to make sure that it handles the best. All of its characteristics are just dialed in perfectly for when this car is out on track. So yeah, so around the front here, we have our professional awesome hardware, all these splitters. Quick turn of a wrench here. This splitter will move up and down. We just put an angle gauge on it to find out the best angle of attack. We also have a second splitter with us. A little bit different design, different contours. Again, these quick releases, they have the quick release on the inside and just the pins on the front. Nice, quick, easy drop in and out to change it when we want to try different setups. Around the back, we have our APR wing. This wing is currently mounted to the trunk, and so far we've been finding through testing today, it's just the GR86 trunk. The hinge system in it actually allows the trunk to start to kind of lift up a little bit, and we really notice this when you can stand right there and watch the wing. You actually see it lift up, and we're seeing a couple of oscillations in the readings on the scales just from seeing that. So I think we're going to come up with a little bit better system to design the wing to mount it more to the chassis. But the diffuser and the wing are complementing each other perfectly. With a perfectly flat bottom car, now that we have the battery pack in it, it really helps having this ramp up on the wing to match the ramp up on the diffuser, and really helps with the downforce in the back of this car. And it's super neat to make a small degree of angle and change in this, the angle of attack here. You can watch it, how it actually will push down more in the back, lift up the front, or we decrease it and it'll push less down and more in the front. It's really, really neat to see this on scales and just watch the slightest little changes that you do actually mean something. Other things too we're watching, we tried taking these off, the side plates, just to see how that helps with the turbulence over the wing. Other things we're going to try taping off different vents down the side. You'll see that later. A bunch of different ways we're going to try to change the body line. We put some tape across the trunk here. Just trying literally every little detail to make this car as most aerodynamic as possible. Just explaining how the whole thing works, all the witchcraft that happens in there, sends the air out this way. It's pretty sweet, eh?
So then they adjusted the wing too now?
Yeah, so we went from like a 9 degree, so I'll show you on the numbers here. So this is the drag, this is the lift, and then this is the distribution of front lift, rear lift. So positive is obviously the car's going up, negative is downforce, and then this is the percentage of the lift, and then this is your ratio of lift to drag. So because we had the splitter at a 1.5 degree nose up, you can see that it was actually lifting the front of the car off as the air hits it and it lifts it up. The wing, we had such an aggressive attack angle, it's actually creating a really nice amount of downforce. Now having lift in the front, also because the car is rigid, it will pitch like this. So as it's pushing up on the front, it's pushing down in the back. So now they've put the wing down to 3 degrees, and I think they left the splitter. Is the splitter still the same? Splitter still the same? So we'll see this lift the lift will probably decrease a little bit because the rear wing won't be pushing down as much. So it should be a little bit more neutral, but with still some lift in the front.
There was a little opening, right? We're taping it closed now. That seems minor, right? Can you figure out, what do you think that's gonna change? Nothing, I mean, it's just a little tiny hole, right? Like, what do we think we're gonna see?
Less force on the X direction.
Less drag now that it's taped. And it's a T, right? So it actually runs, if you take a look, you can actually see it runs straight back, and then it tees out behind the seats. You can actually follow it back. Peek through the window there, and you can see the whole thing, right? That's the battery. We still have the same ducting that was from the stock car. Even though on the electric car, we won't need as much cooling, right? So there's an opportunity for further improvement.
taping it, dude?
Well, we noticed that this hood latch is just ever so slightly higher than that side. So this side of the hood actually lifts up ever so slightly. And you can see on the numbers that there's slightly more downforce on that side than this side. So I'm wondering if this hood moving up just a little bit is creating that slight difference, which is just us. We'll adjust that later. But to prove a point, we'll just tape this up and see if that's exactly where it's coming from. We could zip back to that. So we'll pop the hood open and we'll... Yeah, do two there.
Like directly below the,
That way you can still get into here where the zip tie will go around it all the way. So what we're doing is we're getting a bit of deflection in the middle of the splitter under load once it starts weighing down. And it's actually changing the angle of attack at the front of it. So we notice when we push up and down on it and you have the angle finder at the front, it changes the angle of attack, which then the faster you go, the more it deflects, the more your angle changes. So we're just going to try to add some rigidity, some strengthening in the middle to basically hold it so it doesn't change the front angle, and then we're going to test it and see if the inaccuracies that we're getting will be solved by this.
I'm trying to figure out the best strategy here to make this substantially more stable, because this movement is really having quite an effect on the car, which doesn't seem like it should, but it really does. So we're thinking if we can get APR to make one with a much wider base, and we can get to these more firm areas, and then I think we'll take the hinges out and pin the trunk down so that you take your 4 pins out and lift the whole thing out. Might also really help.
Nice branded window net. So open window, as the air comes across the pillar, you're now, because this is a low pressure zone, so now the air is being sucked out of here. You have all this turbulence that happens here. So when they had the wand, as the air came over here, the air starts turbulating across here, and now it interrupts what the plates can do on the wing. Normally with a window there, the air would come across nice and smooth and have full effect here. So when you're turning the car, it'll be okay for this side as you're leading the car into undisturbed air. This will be fine. That side obviously won't. So having a window net here will create somewhat of a simulation of a window. Will basically not turbulate the air as much. So we're curious to see what just having the window net up will do. What does it look like over the window now with the net in it? Is there a noticeable? That's better. Yeah. Yeah. It's not as turbulated by the time it gets to the back. Yeah. Just with a window net. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just for like quick. Look at that. Just massive bubble.
You can actually see it actually hitting that end plate.
The turbulence that the mirror creates, though, eh? It was this pocket was throwing it away from the end plate.
Away from it. Now it's actually still hitting the inside of that end plate.
You see that? What does it do in the in this little where the outer splitter rod comes in? Mostly goes kind of around it, eh? Oh wow! Look at that, eh? Oh, it just sucks it under the car like that.
But see how it's not really coming out of the wheel well? Like those, if you bend down enough, you might actually be able to see how it's like separating on the front of that, the like ramp up.
Yep.
Because otherwise it should be taking that smoke and chucking it in front of the tire. Like
but the ramp is sucking it underneath?
But because it's separating, the ramp isn't working as well as it should.
So what would you change here?
That would be we're mounting it on top instead of below.
Oh, I see. Okay, that little lip is causing that.
Yeah. So it's basically just missing a lot of it.
Yeah.
You can see on the front edge, if it was rounded,
yep,
it would draw more down and in.
You can see it piling up in front of it. And you like a little pocket of.
You can see the little pocket underneath.
So what we'll do is we'll round that edge to make it a nice smoother transition for the wind to go around it. While the wind is just ripping,
Also,
He was like you can stand like not now because the nozzle's bigger, but you could stand like 2 feet from the car. And there's just like, where else can you have a conversation with somebody about what's happening 2 feet from a car doing 120 kilometers an hour?
There's a lot to gain in the front too, just with even just ride height. Like right now it's quite high, so we're just kind of tickling what the splitter wants to do. As it gets closer to the ground, it's going to increase exponentially. So, yeah, even a small ride height to get it down, even if you dropped it an inch, it would make a ton more. Just because the closer you get, the better that suction surface is. Yeah, and then it accelerates to a higher amount.
So run the car in a naturally lower, even like another ½ inch lower in the front versus the back.
Yeah, so like the lowest you can
Little
go
bit of rake.
within your suspension geometry, like the lowest you can go without sacrificing on geometry.
Yeah.
Then add either like 1 to 2 degrees of rake, because with the flat floor, what it'll end up doing is adding diffusion,
diffuser.
and then it'll help the diffuser, so they'll work in tandem with each other. And then the splitter, you can kind of build to that next lowest level based on rules of whatever department
3
you're in.
inches. Is
Yeah.
you were saying is the,
well,
That's what
like
grid
the
light.
grid light like rules if you're more than a 3-inch extension past the bumper.
out past the bumper.
Yeah,
There's
that's-
not a height restriction?
No.
Okay.
And it's
Oh, that's
usually
what
only
you were
when you get into like club racing that they normally have like a, can't go lower than this.
We can't go wider than the wheels.
Yeah,
Like
they'll
the
have some
widest
block
wheel
or
of it.
some roller or something that they, put under the car to make sure it's not lower than everybody else. Just stop, man. It's fine.
We're filing the edge down. We're gonna cut ourselves a fillet of splitter.
I thought it was carbon.
No, it's like a poly weave. It's actually bulletproof. So, can you say that your splitter's bulletproof? Probably not.
I have rolls of Kevlar at home.
That's bulletproof.
Yeah.
Probably not a very good splitter though.
No, it's very loose.
It's very placid. Yeah, just give it like a. So witchcraft comes out of that hole.
From there, over there, just a little bit.
Does turbs
Still gives you some good.
pushes on the car. It's like the hand of God.
Sucks.
Sucks. Right. I think what we want, this splitter needs to go down. We don't want to lower the car too much more because, okay, lower it a little bit in the front, but the back, because we lose so much suspension travel given the nature of the car. Once we get the FDF rear knuckles in this thing, then we'll get our suspension travel back and then we can lower the car more. But for right now, I think we'll lower this down probably another 3/4 inch, lower the front a 1/4 inch-ish. I'd like to get a 1 degree rake in the car so the whole bottom of the car acts as a diffuser. This drop down, change the skid plate, the factory skid plate that was designed for the engine to a flat one because it's got a bunch of cutouts in it for cooling of the exhaust, and then add flat panels between the battery pack and the rear diffuser. That little gap where the control arms. Cut around the control arms. That's on our to-do list. So we're wrapped up here at the ACE climactic wind tunnel. We learned a lot today. A couple of our really big takeaways that we're going to walk away with are the splitter. The splitter really needs to have some more work being lowered to the ground. We're going to create actually a rake with the car, slightly lower in the front, which actually creates the entire flat bottom car to be part of it, act like a diffuser, and then lead very well into the rear diffuser. The last run that we did, we took the diffuser and we actually taped the diffuser forward to the rear diff. Just that small change, huge difference. So we're going to work on the aerodynamics that lead up to the diffuser after the battery pack. That'll also give us a huge improvement. So things that we learned, just something as small as this little cutout right here that we had originally, so it's taped over right now. But because we had the splitter up higher, that little cutout for that bumper, just by taping over that little tiny hole, drastically improved the effects of the splitter in the front. So it's something small as that. You might change bigger things on the car that might not have a big effect, but it's the little things like that. Those are the silver bullets that we really like to find. Also the window net. Who knew that having a window net in the car actually almost acted like having a window? We noticed a huge turbulent of air that was coming out of the cabin as the air went past it, actually interrupted the flow around the wing. We put the window net up and we took a video of that. It was so cool to see how the air just so much more smoothly went over the side of the car. So today was a very, very educational, lots learned today. The guys here were absolutely amazing. It was a pleasure to work with them. So stay tuned to see how we apply all these updates.